Hello again. Today it's a wonderful day outside, and we are getting closer to summer. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And today we have a very special person to me and to the creatives in this world and in Europe especially. Today we are going to talk to Lucia Seel. And Lucia, who is Lucia? Lucia is the representative of Creative Business Cup in terms she is the international expert in creative clusters, and she supports Creative Business Cup in their European programs and initiatives. Hi, Lucia. It's nice having you here.
Hi, Alessia. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to greet back with Sun from Linz in Austria. So looking forward to a nice digital international discussion with you.
It's really nice, and we have been introduced by Rasmus Cherning a couple of months ago in our discussion about the fashion industries and how we can support. And I found out that you are of Romanian heritage, so it's nice to identify ourselves with international experts that are abroad and helping us and helping many other creatives to develop. Tell me more a little bit about what you do, Lucia, because it's very interesting. The creatives are a very new sector that is explored international and especially in the European Union with a huge program that was launched a few years ago, Creative Europe. Can you tell me a little bit about your work and how you correlate with the initiatives now in the on the European landscape?
Indeed. So actually, if I would put, or I describe myself in very few words, it's, I would say, international expert in clusters and creative industries. So these are the two main areas of expertise that I gathered over something like 14 years looking back. I started initially working with cluster development, cluster policy, and being involved at the European level in this kind of policy development and going or deeper into the cluster management approaches, various of them in Europe. And then due to the involvement in various European gremiums or groups and projects, I got involved in the European Creative Industries Alliance. That's where the connection with Rasmus was the chairman of this initiative. And from that on, I spent quite some years in the scene, in the arena of the creative industries and watched out how policies are being made and how they're implemented and getting down to the real creatives and how this representation of interest is able to be transferred from one level, bottom up, top down, across Europe. So basically, the discussion we're having right now is mixing this kind of knowledge. On one hand, the cluster approach, and on one hand, the creative industries. And I think here, it's when we're looking at clusters in Europe, there are maybe about 1,500 of them in various sectors. And still, there are not so many of them represented in the sector of creative industries. And that's an interesting I would say, situation we encounter. Maybe I make a short introduction about the cluster. What is a cluster?
Yeah, I a little bit because there is so much unclarity about the creative industries in our country. So I would like to let's see from the European perspective what are the creative industries and what is the main focus right now.
Right. I think there are several definitions of the creative industries in Europe. There are many policy papers that try to define them. There is not 100% agreement if this is one definition that brings all, but I could say that generally it is perceived that there are between 11 and 13 subsectors of the creative industries, going from design, crafts, architecture, advertising, publishing, media, gaming, film and TV, performing arts, and so on. And I think this is one of the problems in terms of comparison to other industrial sectors the creative industries have in terms of their fragmentation. So we can, if we take the automotive sector, it is clear. It has a clear value chain. It has a clear dedication, industrial dedication, I would say. Where it comes to the creative industries, if we put in one pot all the subsectors, you see how different these subsectors are, and that's a particularity which is at the time a challenge on how to deal with them in a joint perspective in order to achieve this collaborative approach.
So basically, in the creative industry, we try to reunite these communities. So in order for this community to function properly and to be able to collaborate, as you said, and also build clusters. So right now we're coming to the clusters. What are the clusters? And what is the difference from a cluster and, let's say, a community?
Or a network or a pure association, because that's much more what cluster represents. Initially, clusters emerge from a policy, well, not necessarily from a policy, but more from an academic research of Michael Porter, saying that companies and the relationships in a certain geographical area between business, academia, public authorities, and so on, it's much more fruitful into creating innovation through the interaction between them. Whether this interaction is or not guided or supported, that's a different question. We have the example of the United States, where clusters like Silicon Valley emerge and operate by themselves without any public intervention. But on the other hand, we have the European landscape where cluster policy is seen as a policy instrument for regional economic development. So over the last more than 20 years in Europe, these cluster policies and their implementations were spread all over Europe. I think there's hardly any country right now that does not discuss or implement on various levels cluster policy. And yes, there are various of them because no country is alike. Some are public, developed with public funding. Some are emerging as bottom-up initiatives. But what characterizes them is this drive to bring together the business world, the academia world, in order to create innovation. When we're applying this kind of so to say, relationship for creating innovation to the creative industries, we have to think again about the value chain. In the automotive industry, take this example, you can always follow the value chain from the raw materials providers up to the OEMs, so you have a finished product, the car. And along this value chain, it's rather easy to create collaboration among various type of providers in the value chain, because they're not necessarily always competitors. It's about competition. So if you're bringing these two competitors to collaborate, that's very difficult. I wouldn't say mission impossible. If you're bringing them on a different levels on the value chain, then the interest to develop something new that's innovative is higher for both of them. When we relate this to the creative industries, now how to, and from this perspective of creative innovation just by collaborating between them, I think here is a shift of the perspective, because if we're bringing two designers to create innovation or to create something that has an economic impact, then I would say it's, to put it roughly, very challenging, because they have to address, in order to create something that has an economic impact, they have to address an issue, a problem that a certain industry has, or a social or an economic problem, or a problem of any kind. And I think the huge opportunity creative industries have is by collaborating between them, by creating synergies between them, but not with the ultimate purpose to create innovation from their own collaboration, but through collaboration with partners from the outside industries, from what we call the traditional industries. And that they can,
because I think that's the benefit of this is going to be very high, because I think the traditional industries are facing some huge challenges with regards to automatization and of systems and processes. So basically, they can create that added value that cannot be taken away from them by the system, only through creative approaches and by involving creators and designers, so they could be they could have that competitive edge on the market.
I think the creative industries, or the creative people who are, to say, the the foundation, the backbone, or the content of the creative industry, it's the people here. I think they have a huge potential into, so to say, bringing the innovation into the next generation, because they look at they're the ones who absorb what the society development, the processes happening in the world, the changes, the digitalization, and how these can be used in a very different way than technicians can do, than engineers can do. And by putting them into the in connection, or in this in the group, in the world of industrialists, I would say, the only way to develop innovation and to create a high economic impact on long term. I would say, or to give you an example, a European example, I just came back from Bologna, which is one of the pioneers in putting the creativity as at the forefront of their economic development. They have created special programs. They created Bologna, where they try to bring creativity, to structure it in clusters, in various initiatives. They created hubs. It's an instrument they very efficient to use. But what they try is also to use processes of open innovation and bring the creativity both into the society, into the economic tissues, with the political support, so that all these kind of layers are interconnected, and you can see how the whole region profits from it. So it's a very smart approach. It's not many regions have the courage to say, yes, when they're making their regional policies, yes, we believe in creativity. We're going to invest in creativity because we trust this is the only way to revitalize, to reshape our economic development in the region, without having any, so to say, strong background into it, or experience it along. It's just the belief and the trust and the commitment shown to support this kind of creative industries development in the region.
I can see this approach is also international, because right now we have been invited to participate in an open design festival in South Africa, in Cape Town, which is a huge event that it involves children of different ages. So there's a huge movement in starting to change the thinking pattern around creativity in design and applying it to education, applying it to policy making, and applying it to entrepreneurship development, but also co-creating together with the customers, with the consumers. So there is a trend in co-production with the consumer. Have you seen this type of experiences where the clusters are collaborating with community or with the community of consumers? Because I know it's highly applied in agriculture. We have the community-supported agriculture. We have community-supported of ecological products and so on, because there is an interest in that, in the co-creation and co-production.
When I think levels that are combined in a way. We're talking about community and open innovation, and I think it doesn't go one without the other. You have to have both together. And clusters are right now in a process of shifting and looking into this kind of new approach and new development. Initially, for many years, I would say decades, focus of clusters was to bring their members together and to make them collaborate and to put this interaction between businesses and academia and create innovation. And right now, we see indeed the need coming from the society and the economies develop and the processes that are driving innovation. And we see clusters looking more and more into the open innovation processes, not just from the perspective of bringing startups with the big corporations and create innovation in this is from the initial business perspective, but more and more into involving the communities, the regionalities, the particularities of society involvement. And I think here the creative industries, by their nature, into being more network. Just to give you this, I'm making a small bracket to that. One of the reports Austria makes yearly or every 2 years about the creative industry development in the country always finds out through this analysis that the creative people are much more connected, are naturally connected, are prone to networking and not need very much fixed structure in order to have this ability to network and interconnect. And I think because of this ability to address communities, they have a leading role or a good perspective to show what is possible for the cluster structures to interact and go forward in the direction of community. Coming back to the issue of clusters and creative industries, I think why clusters are important for the creative industries is because in differentiation from associations, purely or representations of these subcategories that we have, like the Association of Designers, the associations of architects, the Association of Printing Businesses, the Association of Film and Media, who are very focused on only their subsector interests. Mm-hmm. The clusters combine or bring together all these creative actors together and speak with one voice to represent their interests, be it at the political level, in order to put the creativity and the creative industries on the agenda and get support for their operations, be it in funding or whatever kind of support. To their members. So bringing up this network or broadening the network just from the silo of architects and designers and film actors and so on, but bringing the dialogue across these subsectors. So that's where I see the huge potential they have to do good for the overall creative community.
Yesterday we were discussing about that, and you said that there is a very beautiful example of collaboration among subsectors in Barcelona.
Yes, Barcelona.
So yes. I would like to understand what is the secret of for success, and how do they engage like all the stakeholders so they can collaborate and so they can put this on the local agenda of their own government, but also in integration of their efforts.
Mm-hmm. I think Barcelona is a great example because they combine a 20-year-old experience in doing excellent cluster policy. And as well being one of the most creative hotspots in Europe. And besides from just creating, let's say, not the design clusters, but creative clusters, be it in the media or cross-media sectors, what they did is they put the creative industry as a transversal value for connecting several industries. So design is not just a design we cannot talk about the design cluster. What shall we bring in a design cluster? It's about how to transfer the values and the potential of innovative approaches design can bring into several other industries. So then you see design, the design missions, so to say, to the furniture industry, to other textile industry as well. A fantastic example with a lot of creative brands are not to name. Some are placed in Barcelona. What they did as well from the creativity is developing the approach of experience industries, where they put together sports, tourism, leisure, and creative, and the typical creative sectors, media, design, and everything too. As well, one instrument to support this development of something new in the region. So this transversality of or horizontality, however you want to call it, approach of bringing the creatives in touch with the other industries, but not just bringing in touch, but supporting their interaction. It's not just enough to bring them at a conference together. There is hard work in order to convince the businesses from the traditional industries to cooperate with creatives. It's not that easy as it might seem.
You need to learn the mechanism of collaborating with each other. So there could be the support and the incentive system that could, in a way, stimulate that and also motivate them to generate solutions together.
Yes, and one example of such a support can be a creative voucher that's been implemented in many countries.
Sorry, I did not hear you.
It's about the creative voucher. It's an instrument developed and implemented in many countries where the public sector supports the collaboration between the creative industries and businesses from the traditional industries. That is, for example, a designer or a web designer or an advertising company receives the money in order to provide an innovative service and develop something new in, let's say, for a carpenter or for a wood manufacturer or for the automotive sector, wherever the other business is placed. And that's one
use. Of course, we can get into different examples and talk a lot about how clusters can support. But if we talk about the initiation of a cluster, because I know Moldova is very interested in initiating creative clusters, and if there is like a small community that would want to do that, what would be, let's say, a couple of advices that you would give like the board of that initiative? What should they do so they can make a functional cluster that is going to benefit best from the opportunities that are there, different opportunities related to the social, to economic, but also to political, and how should they do it, and what would be your advices for them?
The first advice would be to well understand what clusters are about and what is the nature of the existing clusters, creative clusters in Europe. So look first at what the others are doing to get inspiration and learn and assess. Okay, they work in these conditions with these framework conditions. We have other framework conditions. What would be possible for us to take over from them or get us inspiration and adapt? And there is one excellent tool created by the European Commission. It is called the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. We're accidentally managing its communication and content agendas. And I can really emphasize to have a look and search and find out where the creative clusters are located in Europe. Go through their profile and see what they focus on, how are they organized, and then we're talking about entrepreneurship. they have to be entrepreneurs themselves, the initiators of cluster development in Moldavia, and grab the phone and call them and get in touch with them and start the dialogue and ask, how are you doing it? I mean, it's the best and easiest and most natural way to learn what actually they want to develop, and then design their own agenda according to the possibilities in Moldova, which I don't know the situation in Moldova, but I think it's not going to be the easiest way to do. So go there, go on this platform, look for the peers, for the next peers, get in contact with them, and clusters are networkers by definition. So I don't think there will be hardly anybody saying, no, I don't want to talk with you. They're curious about learning about Moldova. They're always scouting for new opportunities out there, creating relationships with the others. And yeah, this is one way to do it. It's in order, the ultimate goal should be to involve the public authorities to be part of the game. There are many examples of bottom-up clusters in Europe who are just, based from their members. They create a membership approach, but they strive with funding their operational activity, and that's an issue. I mean, no matter how idealistic we are and say we want to do this for the good of the community we represent, without funding, things get rough at the end of the day. And it's either getting, for example, one possibility to get to learn, to support this learning process would be to get involved in European projects where this experience can be shared in a more structured way and also be supported for it. But at the end, the effort should be to respect also in the creative industries cluster development, the triplex approach, or having the public authorities on board to support this development. If it's a bottom, it can come either it's the public authorities that say we want creative industries clusters, like the situation in Wallonia, and they commit to such a development, or it's the other way around. It's a bottom-up initiative where the initiators have to demonstrate, bring facts on the table to say, this is why we strongly believe this is going to be the economic impact. This is how it's going to boost the region on several levels. And this is why you should support us with funding whatever instruments are possible.
Yes, thank you. I think that there's so much value in our discussion and in the advices that you left for us, and it made me thinking of how we can get more people on board in supporting what we are doing here, and what we can do with in collaboration with other creative clusters, and that are supporting these industries. Lucia, thank you so much, and it was a pleasant discussion. And I hope to see you very soon in Moldova. We should make it happen.
Never been there, and then we can speak Romanian directly.
Yeah, so we can get people engaged, so more people can contribute basically from one-to-one. I believe a lot in one-to-one discussions. People are more open, and even now we were comfortable to talk about some of the struggles and some of the issues that are facing creative industries. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me and for giving me the possibility to share my knowledge. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you. I wish you a pleasant day, and we will see each other next week, where we will talk about entrepreneurial education with my colleague from Canada, presenting Entre Launch, a program that supports entrepreneurship education for children and for children from K to 12. See you next week. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye.